Welcome to A Chef's Grimoire, Spring. Today we'll be working with Temperance. Here we are, the Major Arcana page. We start on this page in every video, just so that we could see where we've gone in our journey. The Fool is here, numbered 0, and they're the ones who travel through this whole story or journey, meeting up with each of these individual cards and learning their essence and knowledge. We've gone through the first line, which is the line of consciousness. We've gone through now the second line, which is the line of subconsciousness. We're here with Temperance. Temperance is the last card in the subconscious line before we move here to the third line, which is superconsciousness. So let's get into the Temperance card. Now, the way I conduct these videos is the first 20-25 minutes I'll be speaking about the card, the symbolism, the history, and I do use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck in my pictures, as well as the description of the picture. And then the last part of the video is the cooking. And we have a great menu today, I must say. Fantastic menu. So if you wish to skip through all of the symbolism and the reference to the card itself and just go to the cooking, I put timestamps in the description. As well as if you wish, you can take your finger and just scroll at the bottom of the video and go to just the cooking part. But right now, we'll go on to Temperance page. This is the Temperance page in the Grimoire. And as always, I'm going to start with the continuing story of the Fool's journey. So I'll read this, and then we'll talk about all the symbolism on the page. The Fool opens the door to their dwelling and steps inside. Everything is exactly how it was left. Overcome with exhaustion, they slip into bed and exhale deeply. They can feel their eyes start to close and their body completely relax as the bed engulfs them. The next thing they see is a bright light. They smell lilies and look around to see that they are standing in a glade of them. A crystal clear stream is running happily nearby. The sun is setting, but that doesn't make sense. It was just bedtime, so the sun had already set. Did I sleep the whole day away? Before the Fool can calculate a logical answer, they notice the light glowing brighter. They hear a flutter of wing, and with that, and the blink of an eye, a beautiful angel is standing in front of them. "Hello, Fool," says the angel, as they begin to pour water and wine from one cup to the other. "I have come to teach you temperance. Your enthusiasm has always been your strength, and even with transformation, you still carry eagerness to find joy in all new things. We admire this." "I'm glad," says the Fool. "But what is a temperance, and what is it you are doing there?" Temperance is how you can balance life experiences by blending the elements to create moderation and make the impact easier. Each drop of life, just as this liquid, is a precious piece of the blending process. It is taking unity from all things to create harmony, says the angel. "I did vow to death that I would consider consequences before taking action. Now, I can also use the tool of temperance to blend a desired outcome," states the Fool. "Yes, dear Fool, temperance is the key to a harmonious life." They both drink from the cups, and the angel gestures to the path. With a smile, the angel fades away, and the Fool takes the first step. Back in their comfortable bed, the Fool is awakened to a new day. So numerology for this card is 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. And 5 is the number of challenge, change, and opportunity. The number 14 symbolizes finding balance between material and spiritual aspects of life. There are 5 aspects to 14. 1 is transformation. It represents change and moving forward with courage. 2, abundance. Many believe 14 brings good fortune and prosperity. 3, spiritual guidance. Angels may use 14 as a sign to remind you to trust your path. 4, personal growth. This number encourages self-reflection and learning from your challenges. 5, creativity. 14 inspires creative thinking and problem solving. And above all, 14 means temperance and moderation. The zodiacal sign for Temperance is Sagittarius. And the planet ruling Sag and Temperance is Jupiter. The element is fire. Now, keywords for Temperance card is balance, moderation, harmony, blending of opposites. So you're integrating different aspects of one's life to become a harmonious whole. So the word temper or temperance with the word temper in it is known in the alchemical world. Alchemy is to improve the hardness and elasticity of metal by heating and cooling it. So that is the structure that temperance brings to metals through alchemy. The Old English word for temperance means to bring something to required condition by mixing it with something else. In Latin, temperance means to mingle and to restrain yourself from anger, or to moderate proportional mixtures of qualities. In the Middle Ages, temperament was thought to be the 4 bodily humors: phlegm, blood, yellow bile, and black bile. And doctors played around with this for a long time, but a saying came from all of that, which is to lose one's temper. And when you lost your temper, it meant that one of those 4 humors was out of balance. So doctors did things like bleed you or, cut you or, starve you, anything they can do to, in their minds, bring those humors back to balance. And therefore, your temperament would improve. So funnily enough, here we are in 2025, and we still say, don't lose your temper. And that's going back to medieval times. It's very funny. So we'll look at a little symbolism on the page. This is right here between my arms is the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction of temperance. I just extended it due to the enormous volume I have on my page. So, but all the pictorial representation is there from Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is the most used and known deck to date. So our angel here is Gabriel. Gabriel's meaning of their name means man of God. Gabriel is the leader of all angels with the power to announce God's will to mankind. They stand to the left-hand side of God, and they're associated with the lily flower. The lilies, just like Gabriel, are messengers. So, in many instances through the Bible, lilies were either given or received as a message. And Gabriel is associated with this flower due to that. And lilies are also symbolic reminder that angels watch over us in difficult times. Gabriel is not only an archangel, he's also a Seraphim angel. And the Seraphim is burning ones or nobles or ones that love. And biblical reference of the Seraphim comes from the book of Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah proclaimed that there were angels, each with 6 red wings, 2 wings to cover their faces, 2 wings to cover their feet, and 2 wings to fly. These angels surrounded the presence of God as he sat upon his throne. They are ministers to the Lord and serve as agents to purification, cleansing souls before they are brought to heaven. They cleansed this prophet Isaiah by heating a coal and putting it to his lips to purify him so he could spread the word of God to the people. Now the Seraphim's position is to fly above God's throne, while the cherubim sit around or beside the throne. The white robe that Gabriel wears is white is always a symbol for purity and spiritual focus. There's a Tetragrammaton here above the triangle. You can see it. It looks like folds in Gabriel's robe, but the wording is Hebrew letters, which spell out the word for God. It's the unspoken word of God. So you can see in my notes, this is the Hebrew word for God, and then it's depicted here in the card. And what does that mean? Why is it on Gabriel's robe? Well, it just brings home the point that Gabriel is a Seraphim angel, and he comes directly from God. There's also a triangle within a square. The triangle represents the Father, Son, Holy Ghost. The triangle is also the alchemical symbol for fire, and it represents humans. The square is structure for the 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth. It's the physical body, so the human within the physical body. And it's the blending of spiritual and physical, the integration of spirit and matter. This symbol here, the triangle within the square, is a symbol of Septenary. The division of the 3 lines of the major arcana are 7 cards each, 3 rows of 7. It's also 7 virtues. There's 3 theological, which is the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and 4 cardinal, which is prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. There's a sun symbol on Gabriel's head, and that basically means clarity of thought and enlightenment. There's a path that leads to the sun. It's the same path that the angel gestures for the fool to take the first step upon. This path going to the sun is just a symbol for the path is the pathway to enlightenment. Our angel is standing with 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on earth. Now this represents standing between 2 worlds. According to Arthur Waite, the creator of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it harmonizes the psychic and material natures, balance between consciousness and subconsciousness. Now, harmony comes from integrating both the practical and intuitive aspects of oneself. So having 1 foot in the water is always a representation of the subconscious. And 1 on earth. Earth is stable, it's stability, it's consciousness. It's our day-to-day lives. So temperance can migrate both. Temperance is blending of both. The water here is also a stream. It's not an ocean, it's not a river, it's a stream. And going back to stream of consciousness, and that's what this represents. Now, the 2 cups that Gabriel carries what they're doing here is, many people say it's just pouring water from one to the other, but in more research, it's actually, they're blending water with wine. And why? Why wine? Well, back in Middle Ages, wine was what you drank because water was not pure. It wasn't pure enough to drink. It was disgustingly dirty back then, and a lot of it went into the rivers and the oceans and the water around them. So in order to purify that water, they would have to make it into wine or beer. Now, mixing water with wine was a way to temper the alcohol level. So you could consume more, but you wouldn't get drunk. So it was a matter of temperance. Going back to Arthur Waite, he describes the 2 cups which contain grace, benediction, salvation, and mercy alike. It's a flow and exchange of energies, and the cups can be thought of, cups typically in tarot are known to be emotions. So emotions, ideas. So it's balance that you achieve through a harmonious blending of the different elements. So in pouring the liquid, it's a moderation and careful blending of opposites, right? Water and wine, opposites. Now the act of pouring these liquids from one cup to another is moderation and careful blending of opposites. Achieving balance requires patience and careful management of resources and energies. So the face of the angel is very focused on what they're doing. Calm but focused. Moderation. Keeping things in balance. So now I'm going to turn attention here to the hills and the mountains. And whenever you see hills and mountains in the tarot, it usually means obstacles. Mountains always mean huge obstacles, and hills mean moderate obstacles, but nonetheless obstacles that we must head towards and go up and over. There are many challenges, small and large, that will be consistent in our lives, and finding the path to a higher consciousness is necessary to meet these challenges head on and overcome them. That's what this path to enlightenment means, and it's been up and over the hills and into the mountains. Now, from the story, I wanted to encircle Gabriel in this beautiful golden light. It's talked about in the story, and the radiance of this angel is potent. So I wanted to make that all part of the visuals to this page. But the sun is everywhere, so radiant light is within temperance, if you can achieve it. The sun disk on the head, the setting sun, and the radiance of the angel themselves. Also, you notice the lilies are yellow, not white. Yellow being a color of the sun. So now that we've gone through all the symbolism on the page, it's time to think about food. The fool is not eaten for days. They got their rest, but I'm sure they're very hungry. We have a perfect menu for the card, or at least I think so. So temperance, or to temper in cooking, is just as the word means, creating a balance, creating harmony within the food. So with that in mind, we're going to learn the art of tempering by making the following menu: a rainbow baked savory cheese custard, tempered oil, which is called tadka, tempered chocolate in the sous vide, and buttermilk ice cream cake. Let's start the tempering process. Our mise en place for the cake consists of buttermilk, vanilla, an egg, baking soda, salt, butter, packed brown sugar, and flour. I also have a 6-cup silicone muffin vessel, perfect for this. Now, we're going to need only half an egg for this recipe, so I'm going to crack the egg in a bowl. Give it a whisk and set it aside from when we need it. We're going to start with softened butter in the bowl, and we're doing this by hand. We're not going to use a machine. Add the brown sugar and whisk that around until it's incorporated. Add a half an egg, and you can eyeball this. And mix that up well. Then add your buttermilk. Now this is our wet ingredients, and get them nice and mixed. Now we're going to add vanilla. And set the bowl aside once it's mixed. We're going to fluff up the flour and add the rest of the dry ingredients. So that's the salt and the baking soda. And give that a stir, as I said, to fluff it up. Now we're going to add the dry on top of the wet. This will help to keep it incorporated and not have any dry spots where the liquid hasn't reached it. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of the batter to our vessel, covering the bottom. Now I yield only 5 cakes from this batter. I halved the batter, but online I'll put the full recipe. You're going to bake those for approximately 15 to 20 minutes, or until they spring back when touched. For our buttermilk ice cream, we have cream, buttermilk, nice and thick buttermilk, vanilla, salt, sugar, and eggs. I also have a nice vessel to cook everything in. So we're going to start by getting the pan hot and add your cream. While the cream is warming up, we're going to separate our eggs. So I'm starting with 1 egg, and I'm going to crack all the eggs in the bowl. This is the best way I've found to separate a bunch of eggs at once. Now, going in with my hands, I'm going to take out the yolks and pass the yolk from hand to hand, letting the whites drip through my fingers until I have a beautiful egg yolk. And do that with all of them. Add the sugar to the bowl and give that a good whisk. Now, you're going to whisk for about 3 to 5 minutes. You want it to change color. You'll see it's getting paler and paler as I mix. And when you lift the whisk out of the batter, the residual batter should pool on top. Now we're going to start the tempering process. Now the cream is nice and warm, so we're going to add it very slowly to the egg mixture while you continue to whisk. I have a towel under my bowl, which helps the bowl kind of not move around, although it will. But again, we're slowly adding the hot liquid to the eggs. Continue to whisk. You're going to do another ladleful. This time you don't have to go as slow because the eggs have warmed up. But now what you're doing is bringing the eggs to the same temperature as the cream. And for an insurance policy, I always do a 3rd ladleful. You'll know if it's curdling. Now you can add the eggs directly to the pot of the rest of the cream while it's on heat. And continue to stir until the custard is thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. You'll know you're almost there. You see the steam that's starting to rise from the pot. You'll also start to see a little bit of the indentation of the whisk in the custard itself. Now we're going to test it with the spoon. Dip it in. Yeah, we got it. Nice. Now we're going to add the buttermilk. And boy, I made a mess. Add the vanilla. My vanilla, there's more vanilla on the counter than there is in the ice cream. Now the fun part. We're going to use the bucket for our ice cream maker. Now this is a bare bones on-off ice cream maker. This is the churning vessel, and you put it in with the churn side down. Don't make the mistake like I've done and put it in the other way. Nothing will happen. And add the lid. We're going to turn the machine on, and we're going to add the custard. Now the custard needs to be completely cooled and or chilled. After about 20 minutes, it should look something like this. Now going back to our cakes, they're fully baked and cooled, and I'm going to remove them from the silicone. I'm going to take my little spatula and or butter knife and run it around the edges, and then they should release nice. They are a moist cake, so you're going to find some residual batter at the bottom of the silicone. It's not to worry. We're going to cut this in half as evenly as possible and do the rest with the remaining cakes. Now we're going to fill them with our ice cream, which has frozen overnight. You take one of preferably the bottom of the cake and put it back in the bottom of the silicone. Then add your ice cream, and I'm going for quite a bit, so I'm going to fill it to the top with the ice cream. Then we're going to top it with the last piece of cake. Now I'm not going to put it on this way. I'm going to flip it on itself so that the flat side is exposed. And pat them down so that the ice cream adheres to the cake and freeze. Now we're going to temper our chocolate for a decoration to put on the cakes. I have 2 bags of chocolate chips. They're semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I'm doing 2 bags because it's kind of experiment, so I figured we'll do 2, and that way if one doesn't set up, I can fix the other. I have my temperature on my sous vide stick set for 115, and I'm going to take some water out so that it doesn't pour over when I add the chocolate. Now, to add the chocolate, I'm going to open the bag, submerge it into the liquid, and get all the air out before sealing it up. You know you've done a good job when the chocolate stays at the bottom of the pot and doesn't float to the top. Now, the chocolate is melted, and I'm going to turn my sous vide stick down to 81 degrees. I'm going to take some more liquid out to receive the ice. And we're going to start to add ice cubes until the temperature of the machine comes down to the 81 degrees we have it set at. It's just a faster way of getting it done. Now that we've reached our target temperature, I'm going to use my instant read to make sure. Perfect. We got it. Okay. So now I'm going to take the machine and I'm going to bring the temperature up to 91 degrees. This is the temperature you're going to hold the chocolate at. Again, I'm testing with the instant read to double check the machine. And once I'm there, you're going to leave the chocolate in for at least 5 minutes before using. Now, during that 5-minute period, at every minute interval, you're going to take the chocolate out and give it a massage, and then put it back in. After 5 minutes and 5 massages, it's ready to go. We're going to take a little snippet off the edge of the bag. And I'm going for an abstract design here. I thought this would be kind of cool if I did a huge abstract and then curled it on itself and see what happens. So this is what I came up with. I let it set for just a little bit. And I have a glass vase. I'm just going to turn it on itself and hopefully get a nice curl on this beautiful design. Okay, so we're gonna leave this to set. The setting process could be anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. It all depends on the chocolate that you've used and the air quality. For our next decoration, I've decided that I'm going to do fork tines through the chocolate and then make them into curls. So I'm going to get this is the second bag of the chocolate, by the way. And I'm going to use a flat plastic knife. You could use a spatula, but I'm bringing the chocolate to the edge of the bag. The last time I didn't do this, and I found that it was a little difficult to work with. So now I've got a really nice pool of chocolate at the tip of the bag. Cutting off the tip, put a little onto the parchment, and we're going to spread it with an offset spatula. And I'm going to use the fork. I'm going to run the tines of the fork through so that I have a nice stripe pattern throughout the chocolate. And we're going to set this aside to cool. Now for the second strip, I'm going to use this tool that I've had it in my kitchen for years. I think I bought it at an estate sale. And I never really knew what it was for, but I've used it for different things in the kitchen. I believe it's a cheese knife, but it's going to come in handy for this particular application. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to run it through the flattened chocolate. And you can continue this process for as many times as you like or until your chocolate is all used up. These are my chocolate shapes. I have them laying over my rolling pin, so let's see how they do. While the chocolate is resting, I'm going to use my frozen strawberries that I had left over from an event I had done, and I'm going to cut them into small little chop. Be careful here when you're chopping through frozen strawberries. It's not as user-friendly as a fresh berry. They're going to slide, so be very careful. But once you have your chop, you're going to put them all in a little bowl. And once all the strawberries are done, we're going to add them to a larger bowl, or I probably should have started with a larger bowl. That would have made sense. And I'm going to add sugar. What this is called is a maceration of the strawberries. And it's just a big fancy word that just means sugared strawberries. All right, moment of truth. Peeling off the paper from our tempered chocolate. It comes off easy, or at least it should, and it breaks easy. Beautiful, look at that. So fun. Ah, here it is, my masterpiece. And those little shards will come in handy for decoration too. Beautiful. Ready to use. Now let's put it all together. So these cakes have been setting in the freezer, and I'm going to run my little plastic knife or whatever you have around the outer edge, making sure it's free, and then pop it out. Nice, look at that. You're going to do that with the rest of the cakes. You're going to take one cake, and we're going to put it down on the plate. I'm going to take some macerated berries and put them over the top. And I'm going to take that gorgeous liquid. That's really what I'm going to go for next. And I'm going to strewn that around the plate. Just like this. Now, we're going to go in with our chocolate curls. We're going to pick the ones that look the best. And let them fall where they may. This looks like something you would get at a fancy bakery. Yeah. Yum. Our tempered chocolate, our buttermilk cake, and our buttermilk ice cream. And then the macerated strawberries. Nice, right? Yeah. I kind of made this whole thing up. I found the recipe for the cake. I knew I wanted to make buttermilk ice cream because of the tempering process. And I knew I wanted to temper chocolate. I just didn't know how it was all going to come together. But I like it. I like it a lot. Now the tempered chocolate, there's a million ways to temper chocolate. I'm not a baker. I don't profess to be a baker. So tempering chocolate is not something I do on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, I think I do it once every 6 years, maybe. And I had a sous vide, and I love my sous vide. So to find a different use for it was kind of cool. But I know many people temper their chocolate in the microwave. I don't have a microwave. So my elected choice, if I didn't know about the sous vide method, was to do it on the stovetop. And the problem with that is getting it to the right temperature, not scorching the chocolate, and the cooling process. I mean, there's just a lot more variables around it for a novice that has not done it many times before. So I just felt like the sous vide was, for me, foolproof. If you have a sous vide, try it. You know, it's something else you can do in your sous vide, and it's fun. I used a teeny itty bitty pot. You could do mass amounts, you know. I mean, that's the beauty of a sous vide. The other beauty of a sous vide is the cleanup. There is none. You're just using the squeeze bag. Once it's done, into the garbage. And you don't even have to wash the pot because it just had water in it. So it's like there's no cleanup whatsoever. You could also, the second beautiful part of a sous vide tempering of chocolate, you can leave it in the sous vide at the 90-degree temperature for hours, days. If you're not ready to use it right away and you want it to ready to go when you are ready to use it, sous vide is your friend. It totally makes it foolproof. So now the actual making of the chocolate curls and whatnot, I mean, that's a little advanced for me. So I did what I could. You saw me do what I did, and hey, you know what? It looks pretty fancy. It looks pretty good. It's not shiny. I didn't have the acetate paper. I didn't have, you know, the cocoa powder transfer paper, all that good stuff that bakers use. I just had parchment paper and a fork. And the fork came out better than that cheese cutter tool that I had. The fork gave me cleaner lines. I also, after experimenting, a little thicker on the spread of the chocolate is better than super, super thin, because the thin just falls apart. The thicker ones held up, like that one. Yeah. Thicker with the fork, that's that. So you don't need fancy tools, you know, you just use what you got. Let's try. I've made this buttermilk ice cream before, so I know it's amazing. Got a little cake and a little ice cream and a little strawberry. Oh, that's delightful. Oh, the strawberries are really lovely on that. The cake is very moist and it's firm enough to hold the ice cream, but it melts as the ice cream melts on your tongue. Yum. And little chocolate bits. Yeah. Nice touch. For our savory custard, we have eggs, cream, Bourguignon cheese and Parmesan cheese, Aleppo pepper, salt, chives, tarragon, thyme, and rosemary. I also have a vessel to put it all in a bain-marie, which we'll talk about in a minute. First up, let's get our herbs and our vegetables ready. We're going to do a rainbow roasted vegetable top. So I have my thyme, and this is a woody thyme, so I'm going to take the real woody ends off. And then you're going to take a sprig, and the way it grows, you're going to turn it on itself and pull, so all the little petals come off and the woody stem is left. We're going to do that with all the thyme. Now the rosemary, same thing, turn it on itself and pull. Tarragon, you got it. Turn it on itself and pull. Now the chives we're going to take, and they're all over the place, so I'm going to take my knife. After shoring them up, I'm going to take my knife and cut them down the center. Then I'm going to take the centers and put them together. So now they're a little more straight and even with the grip on the knife. Go ahead and give it a good chop. Now we're going to mince. That's the middle of the knife. Hold the tip down and mince away. We want a nice fine mince. For our cherry tomatoes, you've seen me do this, and you've also probably seen it on TV, where you take 2 deli lid containers and you put cherry tomatoes, as many as you can fit in one bottom of the deli lid, and top it with the second one, lip up on both of the lids, and then with your knife, very sharp knife, you're going to go right through and cut them all in half in one fell swoop. Just like that. For our bell pepper, you're going to cut off the top to expose the core. And now with the knife, you're going to take off what I call the cheeks. So you're going around the core, and I'll probably only need 2 for this recipe, so I'm going to save the other part of the pepper for another application somewhere. Now we want to take out the rib from the center. So you're going to fillet it out just like this. And we're looking to get as much red color as possible, getting all the white out. Then you're going to julienne, or make them into batons, which is a thicker julienne. Shore them up and cross cut. This is going to set the size for the rest of the vegetables. So all the rest of the vegetables I cut are going to be this same size. With the yellow squash, I like to trim both ends, cut it in half, and I'll probably only use half for this recipe. Now take it and cut it lengthwise, and cut it lengthwise again on both halves, so you have planks. We're going to take the plank and we're going to cut it in half, lengthwise, and then cross cut. This one requires 2 cuts through and then cross cut. For our red onion, I'm going to peel it. This is half, again, I've had saved from another recipe. But I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to run it through, keeping the root end intact. I did about 4 cuts lengthwise, and now I'm going to cross cut it. Our broccoli, we're going for little itty bitty florets. So I'm going to start by taking the larger florets off. And then I'm going to trim as close to the head of the floret as possible. Some will fall away into the size I want, which is this. And others, you're going to need the tip of your knife to cut them. So I go in and just cut the stem into the size I want. They peel apart. Just like that. Now I'm going to roast these on one tray, but I'm going to roast them in individual rows because I'm not sure yet how I want to use them. So I'm starting with the red onion, and I just added a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and I'm going to lay them onto the sheet tray in rows. You continue on with all the vegetables this way. We're going to pop them into a 425-degree oven. These will take about 25 minutes, depending on your oven. Now, while the vegetables are roasting, we're going to make our custard. I'm going to bring a pot to medium heat, and I'm going to add the cream. Now, these are herbs, the same herbs we used as a mince, only I didn't chop them at all. I'm going to throw them into the cream and let them steep in the cream to, again, give a little bit more flavor. While the cream is tempering, we're going to get our eggs ready to go. So I have 1 egg that I only need the yolk of, and the other egg we're going to use the whole thing. Now we're going to add a pinch or 2 of those minced herbs. We're going to add salt. I have Aleppo pepper. You can use a hotter pepper if you wish. And give it all a good mix. This is now ready to temper. The hot cream now needs to be strained out of all of those herbs. And just make sure you press down on the herbs to get all that cream out. Now we're going to add the cream back into the pot on medium heat. Now we're going to add the cheese and let that melt away. You'll see little wafts of smoke coming out, but do not bring it to a boil. When the cheese is melted, turn it off heat. Just like we did the ice cream, you're going to keep whipping those eggs and slowly incorporate the hot cream. Now at this point, if you haven't seen any curdling, doubt you will. So you can go in a little quicker with the cream for the second ladleful. And now we can pour the egg mixture back into the rest of the cream on heat. And when it's all combined, we're going to pour the liquid into our vessel that's in a bain-marie. So remember, a bain-marie is just a water bath. So I have water in the vessel around the casserole, and it's acting as an insulator so that the custard stays custardy and not turn into cake. Now, I've just tested it after 15 minutes, and it certainly needs more time. It was too jiggly. This is the second testing. I put it in for 8 more minutes. And we've got a little jiggling in the center, but this outside is set. The custard is done. Now we're going to plate the custard. It's still warm. And I'm going to decide, what do I want in the center? I think I'm going to do the red onion. And on either side, I'm going to go with yellow. So I'm going to put cherry tomatoes on one side and the yellow squash on the other. I'm going to fill in with red pepper on one side and broccoli on the other. Now you can temper more than just eggs. Here we're making an oil with Aleppo pepper, parsley, garlic, and ghee. Ghee is just a different version of a clarified butter. Slice your garlic very thin and get a skillet or a high-sided pan on medium to high heat and add your ghee or clarified butter or oil for that matter. We're going to go in with our garlic and we're getting this nice and toasted. Add a little salt and turn your heat off as soon as you start browning the garlic. Add the pepper and the parsley. This is where when you add a fresh herb to hot oil, it's going to splatter a bit, so be careful it doesn't get you. Now we've infused that oil with all that goodness. I'm only going to use the oil. I'm going to leave the particles in the oil for another use. Baked custard. So tempering with our eggs, and the process is pretty much the same, right? When you have your eggs, you're going to whip them, and then you're going to have the hot liquid pour into the eggs very slowly. You don't want them scrambling. Now, caveat is, with yolks, it's a lot more forgiving. If it's whites, you have to be uber careful. You don't want them scrambling. Whites don't have the fat to sustain the hot liquid, and they'll just scramble right away. So when you're dealing with just yolks, like we did with the ice cream, and like we did here with this custard, that's absolutely beautiful. It's a lot more forgiving. You have a little more leeway, right? I mean, if you pour a little too much hot liquid in, as long as you whisk really, really good, you shouldn't have any problem. Now, as an insurance policy, straining the liquid after the eggs have been put in would be a very good thing to do. I did not for this particular dish because the herbs were in there. And I wanted the herbs to stay in the custard, so I didn't want to strain them out. I also could tell You could tell. You could tell if there's clumping simply by when you pour the pot into the vessel that you're going to bake in. You'll see at the bottom if it's congealed any. And then if it has, well, you know, give it a good mix. It should be fine. Let's try. I love the vegetables on top, right? And then the tempering of the ghee or the oil. Now, before I try, I just want to talk about that a little bit. So that's a different type of tempering. It's tempering oils. And what you're doing is you're infusing the flavor of the herbs, spices, whatever you're putting into the oil. And it just blossoms and blooms and becomes an extra layer of flavor. So it's done a lot in Indian cooking and Asian cooking, but we should really start to incorporate more of that. I mean, the Italians do it with a garlic oil, which is kind of what I've done today, but yeah, that flavor, that oil flavor, that pop, it's just bonus. So I decided, and you'll see when I poured that ghee, once it's been flavored with the different spices and garlic, I did not use the spices and garlic. I just used the infused oil, which technically is what you're doing, but had I not already had so much in this dish, I would have topped it with the garlic. But there's garlic in the cheese, there's garlic in this. So again, let's try, because you don't know until you try, right? So I'm going to try to get, oh, look at that custard. Look at that custard. See, it's jiggly. That's cool. Oh, lovely. Ready? Oh, wow. Super yummy. Super yummy. The vegetables. Okay. So this dish stood on its own. It didn't require any extra veg in it. I mean, you could add vegetables into the custard. I didn't like that. I think it would mess with the texture of the custard, right? I like the custard on its own. And then I decided to roast vegetables and put them on top for color, for flavor, for texture, all those things, for balance. Yeah. So I'm glad I did, because the custard on its own is potent. It's powerful. That could be that I added that flavorful cheese to the mixture. But like I said, with that tempered oil of garlic that we put over it, anything else, it would have been too much. I mean, the flavors right now are amazing. The custard melts in your mouth. It stands up nicely, but it's oh. Beautiful, beautiful dish. I'm just thinking about the time of year that we're in. Next week is Mother's Day. And we made this custard with the vegetables and those lovely little ice cream cakes, the buttermilk ice cream cakes. If you're thinking about what to make Mom, this is it. This is super tasty. I'm going to eat this whole thing. I'm going to eat this whole thing. It's so good. Now, oh, you can make these teeny tiny, like in the little ramekins, the 4-ounce ramekins. Just bake them less. Well, you'll see. I popped these in at 350 degrees. And when I tested them, they were nowhere near done. So I left them in for another 8-minute segment of cooking. And then tested them after 8 minutes, and I felt they just needed more time. So I'd put them back in for another 5. So you could do the same thing if you're going with a smaller version. Start the cooking process at 8 minutes and then test them after 8. You're looking for the outside to be set and the center to still be jiggly when you move it. And be careful you're not, because you're moving it in a water bath. So, the hot water around it is going to jiggle. So be careful that, you don't splatter yourself when you're testing your custard. But yeah, you got to keep your eye on it. You don't want it over baking because then it wouldn't be as creamy or as delightful. So good. Temperance. It's the necessary step after death. And what comes before death? There's justice calling you out, saying, this is it. This is the sentence. The hanged man. You take a deep breath. You take a step back. You see things as clearly as possible. Then there's death. You make sense of everything that you've weighed to say it stays, it goes. And now we're in temperance. And temperance is just like tempering the eggs with the hot cream. It's bringing the things we know now from hanged man stage through the death stage. And now we're making sense of it. We're bringing it all into balance. For the Fool, it's taking all of that unconscious knowledge and putting it into practical day life. And for us, it's no different. So that's why it's so important, the stages that we've done so far. Justice to the hanged man, to death, and now temperance. And it's not going to stop there. We keep going. The Fool still has a whole line to complete in addition to this one. So that's another reason why Temperance is so wonderful. Temperance is the last card of the second line, which is our subconscious. And with Temperance, just like with the Chariot being the vessel that carries us from the consciousness to the subconsciousness, line 1 to line 2, Temperance takes us from line 2 to line 3. Finding that balance, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it to get through line 3, which is super consciousness. And once that's done, guess what? You do it all over again. And again and again and again. It's life. It's life. It's a game, remember? It's all a game. So, if you don't have it already, bring temperance into your life. Bring temperance into your cooking. It's easy to do. And the results are amazing. So, by using temperance in things that you cultivate in your mindset, in your heart, everything in moderation. The best way to be healthy is eating in moderation. Little of this, little of that, not like the same thing every single day. It's not giving you the nutrition that you need. Yes, you need to modify. You need to balance. Homework for next week. Dust off your ice cream maker because summer is coming. Well, and we need a lot more homemade ice cream in our life. And we'll see you then.